Welcome to the Integrate This EdTech podcast. We are on Canva Part 2 today. If you haven't watched Canva Part 1, I highly recommend going back and watching that, especially if you're not as familiar with Canva and some of the things you can do in there. We went through a lot of the elements that you'll find within a design that you're working on and some examples of things that I've done found useful. And today for part 2, Jeremy is actually going to walk us through more of the integration side with students. So we're going to take a look at creating classrooms, assignments, handing those out to students and everything. So Jeremy, take it away.
Yeah, and so I think if you watch that first episode, like David said, you've got a lot of great ideas and things that you can design, things that you can create. And so we're going to walk you through how can we get our students involved in the creative process of using Canva as well, because they're going to be the ones that I think are going to really find unique and innovative ways to take things to the next level. So here you can see I'm on my Canva landing page, the home page here. Um, and one of the things that I'm going to do is to show you here where I'm logged in with my teacher account down here on the bottom. You can always see what your account is, and you can also see the different teams that you belong to. And so I belong to a couple of different groups, a teacher that shares some things with me. We have here at ECMEC a staff group that we can share common items to. But then I also established my own class. And here's where I'm going to create it as a team, right? And then the people that I invite to be on that team can be the students, or maybe you have a department team that you share some resources with too. Um, and then once you're able to do that, you can go through and you can start using this to create some different designs, just like David showed us before. But what I want to point out here is that there are some great activities that you might be thinking about, or maybe that you already do with students. Like maybe you have an activity where you create some sort of a presentation or have students create that presentation. One of the tools that they could use to create those presentations could be Canva and not just Google Slides all of the time. They can also use it to create videos. They can create websites, and maybe you have students doing some of these types of projects anyway. And what Canva could present for you is another tool for them to take advantage of that would allow them to let their creativity shine. Okay. So if I don't already have a team, how do I set up a team that I can invite other people to be a part of? So one of the things that's in here, if you just expand that hamburger menu that's up in this top corner, you'll see that you have the ability to give your students the option to use Canva as well for free, just like you do. So if I go in and I can set up a team, it can ask you to search for your school by zip code. I'll just enter that area. I live in Malacca, so I just typed in the zip code because that's the only zip code that I have memorized. And you can see if I search for this, it will give you, say my school is in here. So if I type in Malacca High School, it is going to locate it for me, and I'm able to continue, and I can basically start a new team at my school. I can give you the names of some other people that you would want to help you manage it. Maybe you have a logo of your school if you haven't set this up already, or someone on your behalf hasn't. Then what that will do is it will bring in some branding that you'd be able to use to provide consistency of colors or fonts or even logos that would be able to use throughout different presentations. So I'm not actually going to set that up for that school, but you could see that that possibility is there. And as you can see, I have set up a class already. I just called it Jeremy Mikla's class, right? And it doesn't have a whole lot of people in it. In fact, it has me and it has another student that are a part of it. And I can then begin to share things with those people that are on my team. Okay. So now let's then take a look at creating an assignment here that I want to be able to set up and then send out to my students in their LMS. And just because of ease of use, I'm going to demonstrate that with Google Classroom. But I know there are ways to integrate it with other LMSs, and I'll show you that where that is when we get to that point. Okay, so I'm going to begin with, say I want my students to create a video assignment, okay? And I want to give them direction, and I want to give them those directions by creating my own video so that they have something that they can refer to me describing the instructions and maybe even providing a little bit of an example for them to use. So I'm just going to start out by creating a video, and I'm going to go into the different templates that are here as available for a video. And maybe I'll do it as a breaking news. Okay. Just because it doesn't have to be about news. It just is like, I like the colors. I like the format. Maybe I like the idea of, the space and the earth kind of happening here. And just like all other parts here, these things are going to be editable. I can resize them. If I don't like the exact colors, if I want to use more of my school colors, I can do that. Clicking on these dots, changing them out for a different one. Hopefully, yep. See where it was the red ones, they've now changed to blue. And if I want to change this blue part here to a different color blue, you could see that it changes those. I have the ability to click in here and I can change, to actually the site for my school, right? And it all becomes part of it right here. Underneath this canvas part here where you're doing your creating, you have the timeline on the bottom. And you could see, as David had showed a little bit, if you were watching in the first episode of using the video, I can take this timeline, the parts down here, and I can grab them and I can make them shorter. Maybe I don't want that clip to be 20 seconds, but I want it to be 4. So I can just stop and drag there. Then when I'm ready for a new clip, I can click another one in here. It brings in a blank one. Okay, again, I can go then use the tools that are over here on the side, like David had showed us before. And maybe I have some recent used ones. Maybe I want to have more of a collage style one, and I can drop that in here. And you can see then that it puts that clip in there right afterwards. And so now what you could do with these different ones is take these elements like he showed, drop them in. Maybe I have a different picture that I want to bring in from my uploads into one of these spots. And you can see it just fills those in. So what I'm doing here in showing you the video is just kind of saying, now pretend that Jeremy has some instruction that's going on here and is actually giving people some different concepts like they would want to include in their different type of video, right? All right, so say that I want to add some other parts to this as well as to the video parts that are on there. You can see that I can add some presentation slides in there as well. And I even have the option over a presentation slide, but maybe not a video slide, is to be able to do some voiceover into what goes in there. So if I want to go up to present and then present and record, and then next, and start recording, 2, 1. Here's where you can add some audio over the top of a different slide. So then it's uploading my recording to it, and you will see here, save. Okay, that it's added my voiceover to the top of that different slide. And if I were to play it, you'd be able to hear what I had just said come over it. So this would be a clever way that you could give instructions to students who are, going to be completing this assignment you're going to send out for them. Okay, so I'm going to skip forward here a little bit and say you've got this now laid out exactly the way that you want to, and you want to be able to share this as an assignment out to student to students. Again, a good practice in addition to providing your voice giving the instructions would be to have a printed copy of the instructions to try to reach the needs of all different styles of learners that you have. And what I'm going to do to make it available here to my students is click on share. And one of the things that David pointed out to people here before is that they have some different ones that are here, but it's not a complete list of all of the different ways that you can share this out. If you click on the more, you're going to see that there are all these different choices that are on here. One of them is to provide to an LMS, and you can link it to your learning management systems, depending on which ones they are that you use. I'm going to use it here to send it out to Google Classroom because those are most of the schools that I work with are using Google Classroom. And so what I'm going to do is I have linked already my Canva account to my Google Workspace account as well. So I'm going to click on here to open up the different classrooms that I have. All right, so now that I've had it opened up in that dialog box, which you can see here now, it is giving me something very familiar to how I would set up a new assignment in Google Classroom. I give that assignment a title. I give it written instructions, right? If I want to add it to other classes rather than the one that I chose initially, I can do that here as well. I can go through and I can give it a due date and select it from my calendar. Let's just say that it's going to be due next week. Sorry, there we go. Clicking, my mouse is reacting slowly. There we are. And you can go through and select the time also if you need to. If you want to add it to a topic, you can put it in a topic. If you want to give it a grading category, or if you would like to change the point value, you can do that as well. Okay. And then when you are ready to send it out, see, I can't spell assignment. When you're ready to send it out to students, notice that because you started with this activity in Canva, that it already included a shareable link to your example for the students, and it added it as that attachment within your assignment. So I'm just going to click assign, and this is going to get sent out to your students. If you want to preview it, you can do so. And it's going to open up another window for you to be able to preview it. Okay, and this is where you can see where it gets sent out to your students. Now I'm looking at this first here from the teacher's version of Google Classroom. So I'm going to go into classwork, and remember I called it a video project, so that if you do need to make other edits to it, you can do those other edits right from within there. But you can see here, I have linked the video giving the explanation of directions for students writing Google Classroom. And I can go and I can see who's been assigned to and who it's been turned into and those sort of things. Now what I'd like to take a moment here to do is I'm going to switch over to my fake student account to show you what it's going to look like from that student point of view, and then how they can work to complete their assignment and turn that back into you. So here is where the student comes in, and they can find where you sent their assignment, where they always do in classwork. Here's their video project that they need to complete under Unit 1, right? So now I'm going to check out what those instructions are, and I'm ready to start creating my own project here that I'm going to include as part of it. Now, if you have the Canva integration here, which I don't in this student account for whatever reason, you can find it as a different type of file to start from. But even if you don't, you could go to Canva, you can start creating that project within Canva. And then when you have that student account, and let's now say that this isn't their instructions, this is now their completed project, you can also go back into the share right? And you can give your class access, which would allow others in that class to be able to see your video, maybe to give you some feedback on it as well, and allow them to be able to maybe view only, but then copy that link. I can then, if I'm that student, go back into my Canva class or my Google Classroom, and I can go through and I can add it as an attachment here to this particular assignment, add it in as a link, and then turn it in. And now the teacher will have that creation of the student that they're able to go back into and they can use to begin grading or assessing that particular piece of work. So really easy. The integration of it is really smooth. I think it really comes down to just what are some of those ideas for projects that you think this would be useful for? Think things like infographics. So what are some of those ideas or examples for projects that maybe you want students to work on? Think like infographics would be a great thing. There's lots of templates that students can start with in infographics. Brochures for different types of assignments. Again, take advantage of some of the templates that are there and begin to edit those templates, because then your students are going to focus more on the content of what they're trying to convey rather than trying to find, ways to create the format from scratch. There's different videos demonstrated those a little bit here. You can have students work to create websites based upon the templates in Canva. I've found that they're much more expansive than some of the options that you get available in Google Sites. There's presentations, there are newsletters, and there's many other different great resources that are out there as well. One that I would point you to is this one right here. It is from Canva, and it is just to find their teacher resources. And they've got all sorts of different resources that are available for you to explore here as well, and might give you some other ideas and great ways that you can use Canvas in the classroom.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks, Jeremy, for giving us some ideas into how you can incorporate Canva into student use and integrating that with Google Classroom. Hopefully, between the teacher side and the student side, you can really start integrating Canva into your creation of materials and also getting your students using it, because it's a great tool that everyone should be using.